For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe. Ooh. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe. Ooh, we are. Oh, for each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe. Ooh, we are. Oh, for each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe. Ooh, we are our grandmothers, and we are our grandfathers' dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage, fathers of time, daughters of dust, and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, and the builders of nature. Seekers of truth, keepers of faith, makers of peace, and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage, fathers of time, daughters of dust, sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe. Who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe. Who we are one. We are our grandmother's praise.
Good morning and welcome to Valley Unitarian Universalist Congregation on this beautiful Father's Day. Our invitation to, my name is Joel Sanis and I use he, him pronouns. I'm also comfortable with they, them pronouns. And our invitation to worship is a poem by Amy Jones, A Father's Day Prayer. Today is Father's Day, so we take this moment to hold space for all that may mean to us. We hold love for those who have lost fathers and for those fathers who have lost children. We acknowledge and hold non-binary, transgender, and cisgender dads in families made of two dads, foster and adoptive dads, and single dads. We hold and work to lift up all fathers of color and those fathers raising children of color. We hold fathers kept apart from their children by borders and war. We hold fathers and children who have lost connection, children who have been discovered or abandoned by their fathers, and the father figures who step in. We hold those longing to become fathers. We hold those who may be full of questions about their biological fathers. Most importantly, we hold and thank the dads, the papas, the daddies, and all who show up every day to give their all to the children who need them. Human relations are complicated. These days of recognition are complex. Please take a moment to breathe in what serves you and breathe out what does not. If you could follow Bobby while I'll light the chalice and you'll do the chalice reading words. I think I just mixed that up, but. Okay.
We kindle this flame, a symbol of our faith, for the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of love that calls us to work for justice.
We're going to do something a little bit different today. For those of you who have a prayer or want to make a remembrance, we have a candle area over here to light a candle, or a fountain to add water to it or place stones in it. And here on your right is an area to move stones for a prayer or remembrance. What we're going to do differently today is feel free to do that anytime during our services today, instead of only during the centering.
Good morning. Happy Father's Day. Good morning. Welcome to Valley Unitarian Universalist Congregation. My name is Bobby Riles, and I go by the pronouns she, her. We are very happy that you are all here today, those of us joining in person and those of us joining by Zoom. So if you could take a moment to look at the camera in the middle behind me there and wave to the Zoom attendees, and Zoom attendees, you please wave back. See if we can get them up there. There they are. Yay. We are always happy to have new people among us. If you are here for the first time today, will you please stand or raise your hand so that we can greet you? Welcome. And then for those on Zoom, if you want to introduce yourself in the chat so you can be welcomed there. For those of you who'd like to learn more about our community, there'll be a welcome circle in the back by the tech booth immediately following the service. Those online can just wait for the breakout session after the service. If you have a difficulty or a struggle, we have lay pastoral care associates to help you. Today we have Janet Cantley in the house. Right, here's Janet. And online we have Lisa Benign on Zoom there, and you can reach her via the chat. If you need these ladies during the week, you can reach them at pastoralcare@vuu.org. For those in the service needing a quiet room, there's one available to your right. You can still hear the service, you won't miss a thing. And again, we're just so grateful that you're here today. Welcome.
Good morning. Now you can hear me. My name is Katie Seifert. My pronouns are she, her. And I'm the Director of Music Ministries. Excited to bring music and sing with you all this morning. And this song, we're going to start the service for Father's Day, is a song written by Andrew, a father. And the song is about a father and about being a father.
Father of mine, You gave me the time to see the world through your eyes, as sometimes you saw mine and then I'll find with the kids I have it's harder than it looks. Please hear me out, my heart has been without compassion and forgiveness. I'd sometimes have a doubt if you'd mind, and then I'd find with the kids I have I've never had a doubt. 'Cause as a father, love could look like all sorts of things. As a father, love could be a wink, a joke, or a game. It could be his jacket in the rain. As we're getting old, there's so much untold. I find vulnerability could lead me to gold, and I find you. And I look you in the eye today and say, I love you. 'Cause as a father, love could look like all sorts of things. As a father, love could be a wink, a joke, or a game. Or it could be his jacket in the rain.
Good morning. I am Marcy Bowden. I'm your Director of Faith Formation Ministry. And now is our time to call the children forward for our Time for All Ages. So if anybody is here and wants to come sit on the floor with us, come on up. If you have a donation for the children's collection, our chalice is right here. I want to wish Happy Father's Day to all of you that are a father figure to anyone, not necessarily even a biological or adopted or foster. There's so many ways that you represent that role for the children in our world. So today's book is a tribute to the joy and grounding that you bring to a child's life. In the many moments of a child's life, your words of love and truth, joy, comfort, and pride speak out for equality and justice. Thank you for encouraging our children to fight for a better world. So our book today is Daddy Speaks Love by Lee Henderson, illustrated by E.B. Lewis. So on that very first day, bundled in blankets, you cried to be heard. Shh, baby bird, I've got you, are Daddy's first words. Daddy speaks love when he answers endless questions and makes 1,000 plans. New adventures await us morning till night, days full of tree climbs, the longest hikes, of tea parties, painted nails, and doing whatever we like. Daddy speaks truth, not ignoring slips, spills, or scratches. They're part of life, little one. Go ahead and make mistakes. Daddy speaks joy in tickles and giggles, squishy hugs we share. When Daddy speaks comfort, I'm so glad he's here. Shadows slip away as he tucks me in at night. Monsters will vanish as he wishes me sleep tight. Daddy speaks learning when he says, listen up, this world isn't always fair. This world isn't always kind. And this you'll need to know. He speaks what he's seen. He speaks because he must. Daddy speaks heroes and the dream of a world that cares that people of all colors are treated fair. For families to feel welcome, to come to no harm. He understands we all need safety, protection, and space to belong. Daddy speaks future and of histories long past. For Black lives to matter, for compassion and change that will last. Daddy speaks unity. Daddy speaks trust. When he says equal, he demands it for each and every one of us. When Daddy speaks pride, he shouts it loud, his fist raised high, his focus ahead. Daddy will always speak out. When my daddy speaks love, he teaches love too. Speak your mind, baby bird, and remember, I've got you. And now we speak together, out in the world, side by side, his hand in mine. Thank you, Daddy, for always being my guide. And thank to all of you who fill that role for children in our lives. We will now sing the children out, and we're going to make 2 bridges of love, and the kids can meet out on the patio. Thank you.
Please join in singing in body or spirit, This Little Light of Mine. Have a good class, kids.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Building up the world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up the world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up the world, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
I love that story that Marcy read to the children. Marcy just returned from the coming of age trip in Boston. Carl, who's here today, went with her, taking our older youth on a heritage trip to get a better understanding of Unitarian Universalism. So Marcy is so dedicated, and we're grateful to have such a great religious education program. So during the centering, if anybody would like to do a remembrance or a prayer, we have this candle area over here with water to put in the fountain, and then we have rocks here. And again, you can do that anytime during the service. Now with the young people leaving, we have a little bit of a difference in the mood in the congregation. And this is the part of the service where we center ourselves. So as we enter into centering, we invite all of you who are comfortable to do so to close your eyes. Take a deep breath in. Fill your body with air. And then exhale, feeling your body relax. Please breathe in and meditate how you wish. And I would like to do a centering where we touch our pain, acknowledge it, and let it go. We all have pain. We all have trauma. As you breathe in, listen to these words. Recognize how they make you feel, and let go as you breathe out. Fear, worry, regret, shame, grief. It is important that we acknowledge our imperfections and our mistakes, and we touch them, but it is more important that we find a way to let them go. We're now going to go into our centering music. I had the pleasure of hearing the rehearsal for this song, and it's really amazing. Comfort Me.
Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing, oh my soul.
Please join in singing, body or in spirit.
Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. Speak for me, speak for me, speak for me, oh my soul. Speak for me, speak for me, speak for me, oh my soul.
Dance with me.
Dance with me, dance with me, dance with me, oh my soul. Dance with me, dance with me, dance with me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul.
We're going to sing Comfort Me one more time. This time, just our voices. Drawing comfort from hearing one another sing.
Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul.
You're about to see a picture of my pretty dad. There he is. I couldn't resist. He's gorgeous. But my relationship with my father was complicated, for sure. But now some 7 years have passed since he's been dead, and I am able to appreciate so many more things about him that I wasn't able to while he was alive. This makes me sad, but it also makes me grateful that I've been able to come full circle and to see him in more complete light, because he did do so many things right. After all. I'm only kidding. That was really a bad joke. I have no ego, truly. Oh, goodness. It's better to not ad-lib, honestly. My father was not a masculine man by any stretch. He was small in stature, and for most of his life, very lean and prone to being underweight. He was a sensitive man without a bent for manly things. When growing up in a working-class neighborhood and family, I was always struck by how my friends' dads were mostly blue-collar types, plumbers, sheet metal workers, truck drivers, etc. My dad? Well, he was a salesman. Daily, he would dress up in a suit and tie with a starched bright white shirt, a tie pin, and cufflinks. He would polish and buff his black wingtip dress shoes daily until he could see his reflection. My dad was very clean, and he would regularly manicure his nails, and he smelled of Old Spice, always. In fact, he just looks like Old Spice in that picture. He had coiffed black curly hair that was perfectly combed back, and it even had some hair product in it, because after all, this was the 1960s when a little dab would do ya. I loved my dad, but his lack for overt masculine traits bothered me. When everyone else in our neighborhood had their lawns mowed by the dads of the house, my dad hired our yard work done once my brother left home. He paid one of the other dads to mow it, and it embarrassed me. While the other kids were driving up to the snow with their dads and cutting down their own family Christmas trees and hauling them back in the bed of their trucks, we had a fake white tree with all blue ornaments, and we never had a truck. No, we had a Cadillac with big fins. That's because my dad sold cars, fancy ones. My dad did not have a liking for shooting off guns or fireworks on the 4th of July like the other dads, nor would my dad join us kids in the street for baseball games when all the other dads did. Nope, my dad liked listening to music and coin collecting. In fact, about as macho as my father ever got was when he would watch football games and he'd get all riled up and scream and carry on, and I loved it. It was so cool, so dad-like. And I remember thinking that he was normal in this way. My dad was a Korean War vet, but you'd never know it because he never spoke of it. We'd try to get him to tell us war stories, but all he would do would be to pull out a bunch of pictures that he took of little Asian kids and their mothers that he met while on duty. He hated every minute of his military service, though he'd never admit it, because my dad wasn't cut out for war. My dad's sensitivity led him to be prone to depression, and he had a somewhat bleak outlook on life. But he was also a romantic that would buy my mother a dozen red roses every Valentine's Day. But once he was beyond earshot, my mom would complain that it was such a waste of money that could be better spent on something that would last. And when I think about all these things, my heart swells with love for my dad, my loving and tender dad who told me original bedtime stories with me as the lead character, who bought me Barbies at the Kresge's drugstore, and who took me to the bowling alley that was dark and had navy blue carpeting with gold stars that glowed. We would sit up at the counter and have lunch together. And now I understand that roses are better than trinkets, that listening to music is better than shooting off loud guns, and that fake Christmas trees still bear precious gifts that are given in love. I understand now that my dad had a respectable job and earned a very good living, that dressing up is kind of cool, and that not seeing my dad's butt crack was a blessing indeed. Thank you.
So to give an explanation why it is that I'm giving the service today, as I often find in my life, I was the unanimous second choice. So I'm new to the Worship Associates team, and I was at my second ever online meeting, and we've got this veteran crew of sermon givers who are on the Worship Associates team, including Reverend Sarah. And Reverend Sarah points out that she has a scheduling conflict because at first she was going to attend General Assembly online, but then she decided there are things going on at General Assembly that are important enough that she should be there in person to represent us. So she had a conflict, and I've discovered on Worship Associates that it works as a team, and if one person's down, somebody else steps up. But when Reverend Sarah mentioned this, it went really quiet, and so I'm the rookie here, right? And I don't want to be that rookie who says, "Oh, put me in the game, coach." So I wait, and nobody speaks up. And I've sat through a lot of VUU Father's Day service, and I had this thought in mind. I had been mulling over in my head, and it's been years, really. And I said, I'd like to do a service on, is there such a thing as non-toxic masculinity? And there was a pause where I'm thinking, maybe somebody else might say, oh, I'll do it then, anything but that. But they liked it, and so I am here, the rookie, giving this service. Thank you. Okay, and then there's this little complaint I've had. I don't think I've ever said it out loud. Father's Day services usually get the short end of the deal compared to Mother's Day, or compared to Martin Luther King Day, which is like our patron saint day. At the time that Father's Day comes around, we're in the long, hot days of the Arizona summer. Honestly, people are just not in the mood. So I asked Katie a few weeks ago when I knew I was going to be doing the service, could the band do Everclear's Father of Mine, which you'll hear with the offertory word today. And then Katie said, oh, I think we have plans to go to Disneyland and take their kids to Disneyland. And as a father who's been there and done that, I said to Katie, oh, no, you do not want to go to Disneyland in June. It'll be hot and miserable and long lines. And so I guess it worked. I also said Happy Mother's Day a month ago, and I'd like to make the same point I made then. We love our fathers in this congregation. There's so many great examples. It's really been a pleasure of my life. I've been coming to Valley Unitarian for about 20 years now. And I get to see these men in a spiritual setting, and many of them, because I also volunteer in Our Whole Lives and with Coming of Age, I've been able to get to know their children. And I want to say Happy Father's Day to you all. Paul, Andrew, Mark, I've just looked around to the people I know who are here, Frank, Carl, Ken, Evan, Gary, Happy Father's Day. So last year, our minister, I don't know if you were here, Fred Wooden, gave a great sermon on masculinity. Those of you who were here heard Fred say he didn't think he met the definition of a macho, masculine guy. He isn't a mechanic or a carpenter or athlete or any number of things associated loosely with the tasks that we expect men to do or what we expect generally men enjoy. He mentioned a time when he was working with others on a project building a home, and he ended up falling through the roof rafters, luckily it wasn't drywalled in yet, and he was hanging upside down in front of everybody that he was working on the home with. And then Bobby's beautiful story about her own father was in the same thing, that what the stereotypes are of men and fathers often doesn't match up with how the fathers in our lives lived. Bobby, your dad seemed to live his life with confidence and with style. And Fred, despite his lack of mechanic skills, is not anybody who knew him would have found lacking in talents and understanding or manliness, however that might be defined. So my mother, my brother, and sister lost our father at a young age. He was 6. So he was 61 years old when he died of cancer, and I was 30 years old at the time. I didn't think I was going to do this. That's right. So when it happened, I didn't realize how young he was or how young we all were to lose a husband and father. I remember when I was 30, I was like, well, my dad lived a good long life, and of course now I miss him. But my dad, his name was Larry. He was the type of guy who could really fix things. We lived in a rural area, a place called Hinckley, Utah, middle of nowhere, Utah. And for about 10 years in a row, my dad drove the Hinckley, Utah Lions Club car in the annual 4th of July demolition derby. He would find an old car that might or might not be operational at the time. And then during the summers before the 4th of July, when school was out, we would strip the glass and chrome, we'd take the seats out, move the gas tank from the back to a safer place, weld in a roll cage, and then paint it with the sponsor's name and his number. And then that night on the 4th of July, he would use that car to crash into other cars. And if he was lucky in the first heat, he got the opportunity to do it again in the same crashed car in the final. My dad also served a full career in the National Guard. And like Bobby's father, my dad had a style: Levi's jeans, cowboy boots, a Western shirt with snap buttons, and a cowboy hat. It was like all he ever wore. It never occurred to me to think of my dad as macho or masculine. I don't really recall him ever raising his voice, and never once feared that he might be violent. So there's another side to Father's Day. It is a day we put on our sort of critical ski goggles, and we know that Father's Day is a cultural expression of what is expected of men. It reaffirms stereotypes of what a man should be. Not every man wants to be a father. Some men want to be fathers but can't. Not every father has a wife. A lot of men who are fathers have husbands. Some fathers seem to naturally father, and others struggle at fathering. Some children love their fathers unconditionally, and some keep their distance from their fathers for good reasons, and some people didn't really know their fathers. But we still recognize the importance of fathering and commend those of you who get up every day and recommit to the job of doing it right. But Father's Day is also a good day to reflect on the state of men in our culture. So today I'm going to discuss a phrase, toxic masculinity. It is a divisive term. On one side, it's a phrase used to describe the many destructive characteristics that are associated with men. But on the other side, it's like woke. It's a caricature used by conservatives of what progressives think about men, that we are biased against men in general and think that all men are toxic. So my question for today is there such a thing as non-toxic masculinity? First, the problem is I don't really know what it means. Does it mean that all masculinity is toxic, or that there is a type of masculinity that is not toxic? And then there's the whole problem of defining what masculinity is. It could take hours of debate to discuss whether certain traits are more masculine or feminine. And one of our precepts is we don't essentialize men or women at Valley Unitarian. People can be who they want. But at least for our purposes, in terms of masculinity, let's compare the movie characters John Rambo, played by Sylvester Stallone in the 1982 movie Rambo and a number of sequels after that, and then Maria, as played by Julie Andrews in The Sound of Music. Rambo is on the masculine side of the spectrum, and Maria is on the other end, and we are all somewhere in between. To give a service on toxic masculinity, I read a lot, and I read from people who I might not agree with, like the public intellectual Jordan Peterson. Peterson is an interesting character. He is a genius-level thinker and an engaging speaker, but he has taken on a role somehow of being a bit of a troll for feminists and LGBTQ folk. He's developed a following as a defender of the concept of masculinity. And there's a video, it's on YouTube, He's giving a public presentation, and he asked for questions, and a woman in the crowd was given the microphone and asked Peterson if there was an antidote to toxic masculinity. Now, Peterson is best known actually as a psychologist and therapist, and I was hoping he might discuss the question from the perspective of what the antidote is. The woman was asking, how can we treat or cure or address toxic masculinity? But Peterson decided instead to interrogate the woman on what she meant by toxic masculinity. And if you see the video, in some ways, Peterson displayed an element of what might be toxic masculinity in the way he had really petulant umbrage at the very idea that there was such a thing as toxic masculinity. And Peterson kind of said he doesn't believe there's any such thing as toxic masculinity. He asked the woman if what might be described as toxic masculinity is really only toxic humanity, suggesting that there are no traits of people who are biologically male that are uniquely toxic. And I've read other things by Peterson. I've seen him debate, the zoning issues. He's just really a smart person, and his breadth of knowledge is vast. But on this issue, I think he showed his agenda. As a social scientist and someone who knows what a reliable statistic is, how can Peterson ignore these statistics? First, the suicide rate among males in 2021 was approximately 4 times higher than the rate among females. Males make up 50% of the population, but nearly 80% of suicides. In 2020, there were 8,977 murder offenders in the United States who were male, which is almost 7 times the number of female murder offenders in the same year. This one is really astounding. I think you'll recognize it when you hear it. Since 1982, there have been 136 mass shootings carried out in the United States, and that's defined by the source as a single attack in a public place in which 4 or more victims were killed. Of those 136 mass shootings, only 4 involved women. And as we know, many of those mass shootings weren't really by men, they were by boys. So what we see here tells us something. In a book called The Elephant in the Universe, Our 100-Year Search for Dark Matter, Govert Schilling described the many ways we know that the universe has a force, matter or energy, dark matter or dark energy, that presently, despite so much effort, we still cannot see and we still cannot measure. And what we can't see or measure could be 90% of the entire universe. One way we know that dark matter is there are these single stars whose one beam of light is split in 2. So they look like binary stars because the force of this unmeasurable field bends the light beam in 2 around it. The point is, we know something that is there if we can see its effects. These statistics about men are the effects of a force field called toxic masculinity. The Johnny Cash song, "The Beast in Me," has these haunting lyrics. "The beast in me has had to learn to live with pain and how to shelter from the rain. And the twinkling of an eye might have to be restrained. God help the beast in me." There are also worrying statistics about boys. Richard Reeves published a book in 2022 called Of Boys and Men: Why the Modern Male is Struggling, Why It Matters, and What to Do About It. He points out that boys are failing in large numbers in school. By high school, 2/3 of the students in the top 10% of their class are girls, and only 1/3 are boys. And at the bottom 10%, 2/3 are boys. David Brooks, writing in the New York Times in 2022, pointed out statistics that men are failing in the workplace also. 1 in 3 men with a high school diploma, 10 million men, is now out of the labor force. The biggest drop in employment is young men aged 25 to 34. Health-wise, men are also struggling. Brooks pointed out that men were about twice as likely to die of COVID than women. For every 100 middle-aged women who died of COVID, there were 184 men who died. A Harvard study found that men were about twice as likely as women to have a heart attack, And that higher risk persisted even after the study accounted for traditional risk factors for heart disease, including high cholesterol, high blood pressure, diabetes, body mass index, and physical activity. Men are also suffering in their relationships. A 2021 survey by the Survey Center on American Life reported that 30 years ago, a majority of men reporting having at least 6 close friends. Today, that number has been cut in half to 27%. 15% of men have no close friendships at all, a 5-fold increase since 1990. And single men are suffering the most. 1 in 5 single American men report having no close friends, the survey found. So these are sad facts. As fathers with sons, these statistics about our boys, why are they so much more likely to go off the rails? And what can be done about it? So instead of saying, is there such a thing as non-toxic masculinity, when I saw this Jordan Peterson video, I decided I would try to answer the woman's question. And I'm sorry, I don't know her name. I researched to find out who it was because I didn't just want to keep calling her the woman, but I couldn't find her name. It was odd. And I searched pretty hard to see who it was. But if you do search Jordan Peterson toxic masculinity video, you will see repeat after repeat of the video with men making comments as if they were pleased at the way that Peterson scolded the woman. So is there an antidote to toxic masculinity? Yes. You are here in this congregation, and UU values and principles are an antidote to toxic masculinity. The principle that we adhere to, that every human is entitled to dignity and respect, if you have that value, that is an antidote to toxic masculinity. And it is not a given that we would believe that every person is due equal dignity and respect. If you go to anyone who has a bachelor's degree in philosophy and ask if it's true, you'll probably get maybe as the answer. It's not that we blindly believe this either. We hold to the belief in the inherent worth and dignity of every person based on what we observe and what our rational minds and our loving hearts tell us is true. There's also something about this particular congregation that is an antidote. We are a feminist congregation. That's not official doctrine, by the way, but we have women leaders, mostly women leaders. So we have this opportunity as men to see that the world is not going to fall apart if women lead. In fact, things will probably get better. This week, I was listening on the radio, and the Baptists disfellowship 2 congregations because they had women pastors. The Catholic faith won't allow women to hold the priesthood. The LDS faith doesn't let women be bishops or stake presidents or in the quorum of the 70 or the presidency. I personally can't imagine being comfortable in a religion that had any problem with the idea that women are equally capable of ministering and discerning the tenets of the faith. In UUism, we have been at the front lines in women's rights, and it is also deeply part of our congregation's heritage. Our tradition in this congregation has been to recognize that gender is a spectrum, not a binary, and that we're all free to find our true, authentic selves by being critical of all of the roles expected of us. Men are not expected to act like men. In our RE programs, our boys are told they are loved and valued if they play sports or if they play dress up. If they are gay, if they are transitioning, we love them for who they are and not because they perform gender norms. So for Father's Day, let us all pray for a world where boys who grow into men or transition to female feel loved and valued for who they are, not because they are strong or aggressive or can take pain, or because they will courageously risk their lives, and not because boys don't cry.
Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul.
We take our offering, and today's offering words are a little bit unique. They're from Mike McBeath. He's a friend and member of this congregation, and he posted on Facebook this week when he did a service in the past, and this is his offering words. I gave a summer sermon. I ripped them right off Facebook. I just cut and paste and put them in. I gave a summer sermon for a UU congregation a few years ago, and for the offertory, I shared the following story. I have a friend whose cat recently passed away and was mourning that she wished she could have a fully ministered service for her beloved Mittens. I recommended that she ask our Unitarian Universalist minister, who she approached, but who indicated we really don't do cat funerals. And the friend said, "That's too bad, as I was thinking of a show of appreciation, I was going to donate $100,000 to your congregation." "Well, that's different," said our minister. I didn't realize this was a Unitarian Universalist cat. And then Mike says, and now I can say this too, I now brag that I go to a church where you can get away with telling a dead cat joke during a service. So we'll now call the ushers to take the offering. We are a democratic congregation, sometimes to a fault. We are self-sustaining, and we survive from your generosity.
Here we go. So it is true that Joel requested this next song, and we were planning on going to Disneyland. But it wasn't just that it was a hot month. It also happens to be a song by Everclear, which happens to be Andrew's favorite band of all time. He even has one of their songs tattooed on his body. So we couldn't resist. Do you want to say anything about Everclear? Or?
I did. I wanted to give context because this is going to be a song that's a rock song, and I'm probably going to be like loud in it. And so I wanted, there's some people, like if my parents were here, I'd want to explain to them what rock music is a little bit. Because I know I've heard my mom and dad say, like, I don't like rap music. I don't like drug use and violence and all that stuff. And I don't like the rock music because it's loud and people screaming and things like that. And I kind of wanted to describe the relationship between toxic masculinity and what becomes of it. And I guess the context that I'm trying to draw is that when you have a boy or a girl or whomever grow up without being able to express their feelings, identify their feelings, have anything really as a release for those, then they find that vehicle through music, and they do have feelings of anger, or they have feelings of, hey, this is where I'm coming from, and they don't have a counselor. That comes through their music. And so that's where rap music has stories of drugs and gang violence and things of that nature, because they're not glorifying it. They're telling us stories of where they're from. And that's something that this song is, and there's going to be emotion that comes from it, and it's emotion of the guy. So. Father of mine, tell me, where have you been? You know, I just closed my eyes, the whole world disappeared. Father of mine, take me back to the day, yeah, when I was still your golden boy, back before you went away. I was never being the same. I remember blue skies walking the block. I loved you when you held me high. I loved to hear you talk. You would take me to the movies. You would take me to the beach. You'd take me to this place inside that was so hard to reach. Father of mine, tell me, where did you go? You had the world inside your hand, but you did not seem to know. Father of mine, tell me, what did you see when you look back at your wasted life and you don't see me? I was 10 years old, doing all that I could. It wasn't easy for me to be a scared white boy in a black neighborhood. Sometimes you would send me a birthday card with a $5 bill. Yeah, I never understood you then, and I guess I never will. My daddy gave me a name. My daddy gave me a name. Then he walked away. My daddy gave me a name. Then he walked away. My daddy gave me a name. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Father of mine, tell me, where have you been? You know, I just closed my eyes, the whole world disappeared. Father of mine, tell me, where do you sleep with the children you've abandoned and the wife I saw you beat? I will never be the same. I will never be sane. I will always be weird inside, and I will always be lame. Now I am a grown man with a child of my own, and I swear I'll never let her see all the pain I know. Daddy gave me your name, then he walked away. My daddy gave me a name, then he walked away. My daddy gave me a name, then he walked away. My daddy gave me a name,
Then he walked away.
yeah,
Then he walked away.
yeah,
Then he walked away.
yeah.
Thank you, that was awesome. You know, normally in a concert, it used to be you put up a lighter when they're rocking out like that. The modern trend is to put up your phone with its light on and wave it like that. I was afraid I'd do that. If I did that, you'd all think I was getting ready to take a call. Yeah, that's what we could do, yes. So thank you, and thank you all for letting us try that song in today's Father's Day service. So our closing words, I'm going to read from Galatians, which is from the Christian New Testament. My son Ely right here suggested them. And so this is from Galatians. Mark my words, behold, I, Paul, say unto you that if ye be circumcised, whoops, did I get that wrong? Oh, it's verse 23. Thank you. Thank you. This makes more sense. The acts of the flesh are obvious: hatred, discord, jealousy and rage, rivalries, divisions, factions, and envy. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such things there is no law. Since we live by the Spirit, let us walk in step with the Spirit. And now we'll have our closing hymn. Okay.
stand in body or in spirit, and let's sing our hymn, number 1028 in the Teal hymnal, if you like to read from our hymnals. Otherwise, the lyrics will be up on the screens. Fire of Commitment.
From the light of days remembered burns a beacon bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirits into faith set free from fear. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the stories of our living rings a song both brave and free, calling pilgrims still to witness to the life of liberty. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion be to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the dreams of youthful vision comes a new prophetic voice, which demands a deeper justice built by our courageous choice. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion need to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin.
Let us extinguish the chalice. Though we extinguish the chalice, our connection to each other and this community remains. May its light guide us this week as we walk the path of justice, speak words of love, and fill our world with compassion until we meet again.
We're going to send you off on another request from Joel. What? This is Happy Trails.
Happy trails, yes.